So in terms of personalization, let's turn to customer engagement. And in essence, we've already been talking about customer consumer engagement, right? Because that is what great experiences create. They create that stickiness. But to get a little bit more into it, Scott, can you talk a little bit about what you deem the definition of personalization to be and what it takes to get this right?
Sure. I'm going to steal a page that's up right now, which is the customer journey. How often have we all worked in organizations in which we create these incredible customer journey maps, and yet they're not distributed in a way that people, that colleagues either understand or see the true map that a customer would go through, and where there are moments to emotionally reward them. I'm going to go to Megan's comment about the titanium, collecting rewards. I think that we need to rethink loyalty, and loyalty is simply you're delivering a moment, or hopefully not something that costs the company money, because that's just a waste of resources, but a connection with the brand. And so if everyone in the organization can visualize, and I'm talking about getting the best visualization company in the nation to help you with those exercises, so that people understand, oh, here's a moment we could reward, and I put that in quotes. How do you exchange emotional trust in that moment? Is this the moment, or can I improv making eye contact, shaking hands, turning shoulder to shoulder so it's not confrontational, pointing the directions to where you're getting your shoes fit, where's the restroom, where's the fitting room, where is it? And so reward that, because those are the trust-based rewards that just pay dividends.
Right. And Lori, for you, brands are not created equal. We know that. And brands play a different role in terms of creating experiences. So can you comment on what role should a brand play? And do some brands have greater permission than others to do certain things within the experience journey?
It's a great question. I actually think all brands have, I'm trying to think of an example where they don't, but I think every brand has the ability to give you a great customer experience and to also kind of surprise and delight you a little bit. So just because I said something bad about Delta Airlines before, I'll say something great about them. And again, it falls under, I guess, a headline, which is from a customer service perspective, to make sure that your employees have the latitude to surprise and delight people. And I give you an example. I was flying last week. There was an obnoxious family of 3 kids sitting next to me, and the parents were kind of in another part of the plane, probably drinking cocktails, just kind of ignoring their 3 children. I wasn't obviously annoyed about it, but I'm sure this was kind of an archetype they see. Businesswoman flying alone, and there's 3 kids climbing over the seats. Flight attendant very discreetly came over, and she said to me, she kind of touched my elbow, and she said, I know that those kids are just kind of running wild. We're really sorry if this is disturbing your flight in any way. If you're okay sharing your email with me, I'd like to give you a voucher for your next trip. And it was such a good example of, I didn't ask for it. She didn't wait till I was like boiling over and writing notes to the CEO or complaining. They just found me. Between us, I will never remember to use that $50 credit on Delta. But I went and I got to my meeting and I told 3 different people how wonderful this experience was. So I think, to answer your question, I can't think of a brand, maybe you could name one, that doesn't have the opportunity to do them. I just think you have to figure out a way to do it that is organic to you. And if you really understand the customer journey, the moments that matter, you can then figure out at each journey, at each point, it's almost like there's a little pyramid, if you will, at each one, which is what's the minimum viable reasonable, acceptable behavior, kind of what's above that, and then where do you really have the opportunity to surprise and delight. So that's like Delta Airlines. And then, on the other hand, I got a note, I don't know, the other week, it was the homecoming for Peloton, which is normally in person when people go to New York, but of course now it's digital. So people all over the world are participating in their sort of big party that they're having. And I got a little note from them, an email just saying, hey, you're someone that gives, high fives, which is just like a digital thing. You give a lot of high fives, want to, thank you for that. And then the next day at my home, I got a little homecoming kit with like Peloton balloons and little, the little white lights that I could put next to my bike downstairs, and a little card with some, I don't know, affirmations on it. But my point was different brands doing it very different ways. And one thing I'll just say, and then I'll turn the mic over, is I think as for those of you that are on the webinar that are, work for different brand companies, I think you should think about like what's organic to your brand and how would your brand do X, Y, Z. So in the case of Peloton, something like that was really about community and engagement, a little handwritten note with maybe on a milestone ride, like, congrats from Cody or Jen Sherman. They do little things like that, but they're not planned or expected. And I'm sure Scott would have points of view on this from the hospitality world. But I think I'm just a bigger fan of those things that aren't kind of earned and expected. Those things you might have to do them in the hospitality industry, like at hotels or with like, Advantage Gold or things like that. But I think all brands should look for simple ways to surprise and delight their customers, and they don't have to be big things at all.